What's up guys, Don Schreist here. You might be wondering, why am I talking so quiet? Well, I'm back at uni, so got roommates and that, gotta keep it a bit quiet. It's 12:40 in the morning right now, and I felt like I have the energy to make another vid. So I kind of miss doing these type of vids, where I'm just like talking to y'all and just pondering about certain topics. So, you guys seen the title, Controlling Games. So why did I make this vid? Well, the number one reason I decided to make this vid was because the term controlling games is one that's like often thrown around in the footy space. One that's used by people to just make it seem like, oh, they got ball knowledge. Like, for example, someone would say this midfielder is better than another midfielder because he quote unquote control games. But here's the thing, when people say control games, usually what they mean is like passing the ball around, which is further from the truth. So I guess I'm here to educate y'all on like what I think controlling games is, and I've done my research and also from personal experience. So here's the thing about controlling games. One player does not control a game single-handedly. It's a coach's system and their tactics on how they can control a game. And I guess if you want to talk about controlling the game, the number one thing is that, I guess from like a commoner standpoint, controlling games is basically achieving your goal and build up. However, I will say this, in order for a team to control the games, they need a deep line playmaker with certain attributes, and I guess you could call this guy the controller, which is like the main guy in build up. And what the controller is a guy that has great ball retention and great off ball movement relative to the CDM. So essentially what I'm trying to say is this guy is supposed to be the one guy in build up where you could be like, yo, well, I'll give the ball to him and he's not going to lose it. Like, for example, if you think of vitinha, pedri, busquets, Iniesta, kroos, all those guys are probably some of the most press resistant players of all time. Probably like 1 time out of 10, not even 1 time out of 10, 1 time out of 50 they're going to be losing the ball. That's how rarely they lose it. So yeah, you need some guy that kind of can like relieve the pressure, and not only that, some guy that can like turn into space and also progress the ball into the second phase, into the midfield. But in terms of off-ball movement, if you guys have played football, you would know, like, if you're a CDM, one of the basic things you learn as a CDM is if the ball's with your right back, you shift to the right side and you have to make yourself a passing option. If the ball's on the left with the left back, you have to shift to the left side and make yourself as a passing option. Point being, you have to move around to open up yourself as a passing option. Not only position yourself where you're a passing option, but where you're also opening up other passing options to other players. And that's basically what a controller is. And there's some people that say, oh, Real Madrid is missing a controller, that's why they miss Toni Kroos. So while some tacticals are saying that the main reason that Toni Kroos is missing is because of the progression that he provides, it's because of the diagonals, which they've solved with Dean Huijsen, probably the best player when it comes to long balls, bar Trent, on the team. But what I think it needs is that they need some guy like that press resistant CDM that can relieve the pressure and build up, that can turn into the midfield. That's why they're looking for a guy like, that's why Vitinha has been one of the main guys Real Madrid has been looking for. It's because he is that guy that can not only keep the ball, but also turn to midfield and advance in towards the second phase. But if you really think about it, what I'm trying to say is that it ultimately culminates to this question: is this really important? Well, here's the way I see it. As like a midfielder, as a number 6, it is a skill that you should have. Like, for example, look at all the Champions League winning teams in the past. PSG had Vitinha, Real Madrid had Toni Kroos, Man City had Pedri, Chelsea had Jorginho, Bayern Munich had Thiago. You get the point. All of those teams, there are countless of great midfielders throughout football history that are great at holding the ball and great controllers. But if you really think about it, what really separates the best from like the good is their ability to progress the ball and do things in like the final third of the pitch. Because really think about it, outside ball retention and what he does in build up play, what good does Vitinha really do? I mean, don't get me wrong, I would say he's, like I said in my last podcast, he's a top 5 performing, or actually I don't know if the podcast dropped, he's a top 5 performing player in the Champions League last season. I guess all I'm trying to say is, in conclusion, controlling games, not one player controls games, it's an entire team. But in order to control games, you need a player that has great ball retention, can turn into midfield, and has great positioning. But it's not as relevant to other attributes like, match winning capability, ball carrying, playing long balls. Those attributes where you're progressing the ball or having an impact on scoring will always be much more valuable than your ability to quote unquote control games. So yeah, that's kind of basically all I had to say. With that said,